Namaste. Welcome to the Festival of Bharat. I am your host, Kamal Madi Shetty. And today on our show, we are going to discuss some very important global developments and their impact on Bharat. We're going to discuss the ongoing crisis in Afghanistan, the evolving political dynamics in the West Asian region, and also talk about some of the big picture questions about India's place in the world. And to do this, we have with us Ambassador Anil Trigunayat ji, who has had a distinguished career as an Indian diplomat for many decades. He was the former Indian ambassador to Jordan, Libya, and Malta, and was posted to various parts of the world as a career diplomat for India. He is currently the president of the Millennial Indian International Chamber of Commerce, Industry, and Agriculture, and chairman of the Atmanirbhar Global Chamber of Commerce. He is also secretary of the Association of Indian Diplomats. He is a distinguished fellow at the Vivekananda International Foundation and a member and advisor to several think tanks, commerce and industry bodies, and research institutions. He is a prolific writer and a commentator of international affairs, and we are very grateful to have him with us today. Namaste, Ambassador Ji, and welcome to the Festival of Bharat.
Namaste, Kamal. Thank you so much for inviting me to Festival of Bharat. I've been reading about you, listening about your previous episodes, and it's a great pleasure for me to be with you today.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. First of all, sir, I would like to ask you, how are you in these difficult times?
Every time always teaches you something. And this difficulty has taught the world also, I think, including every individual, that what is there in life, the hope is everything. Discipline is something that can host you through. And so personally, we have, like everyone else, we also had some problems in the family. But fortunately, we are passing through it, and no complaints, frankly, as they say.
Absolutely, sir. That's good to know. Sir, like I said, we have a wide variety of topics today that I wanted to discuss with you. But I want to begin by talking about the ongoing developments in Afghanistan. So much has happened, so much is being said about it. But the question that I want to begin with is about what this means for the world, and particularly the regional countries in this part of the world. What does the crisis in Afghanistan and the changes in Afghanistan mean for the various countries in this region, including India?
Well, Kamal, at the outset, let me say that Afghanistan has always been one of the strategically most important regions. It is central to Central Asia, South Asia, as well as to the Middle East. And it has also been the graveyard of the empires, as it is called. So we have seen, if not from then, the first Afghan war, what happened, then what happened to the Soviets, we know, and then now the Americans. So virtually all these major big powers had to bite the dust in the difficult terrain of Afghanistan. If you recall, several years ago, about at least more than 2 decades ago, it was the Americans, along with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and some other Gulf countries, had tried to prop up Mujahideens and Taliban in order to fight against the Soviet occupation. And the Taliban succeeded in eventually expelling the Soviets out of this. That was during the Cold War period. And subsequently, when 9/11 happened. Now, the significance of 9/11 is twofold, one for India and one for the Americans and the rest of the world. For India, because India has been suffering from terrorism, cross-border terrorism, especially from Pakistan, for a very long time. But no one was taking it seriously because it was not hurting them. So when 9/11 happened, the gravity of it was felt by the superpower, the hyperpower, I would say, at that time, the Americans. So they did what they do best: straight away go and intervene and bomb a country without any plan, without any idea, just chasing a few Al-Qaeda elements who were being at that time sheltered by Taliban, which was in power. So from 1996 to 2001, we know Taliban was in power, and Taliban has been believing in a very purist, very strictest form of Sharia, the Islamic tenets, and many of the regressive medieval kind of philosophies and the religious way of living, in which women really had no role, democracy had no role, human rights could be violated. So that was the kind of thing, and we have seen the horrible scenes that happened during that period. And that is what created a big chaos in the situation after that. The another impact of that happened was in India, because a large number of refugees came to Pakistan. And since India-Pakistan relations have always been at crossroads, the Pakistan used those proxies and mercenaries for creating unrest in Jammu and Kashmir. So we saw the heightened incidences, prolonged incidents of terrorism against India, and extremism was growing all over. So from India's perspective, that is one of the very key reasons of which will explain to you India's hesitancy in engaging with Taliban during this period, because it felt that there is no good Taliban or bad Taliban. That is something that even the Americans, the Russians, Chinese, everybody believed. But a lot of them, because of political expediency, left that particular. But India stuck to it to a great extent, and started helping the Afghans in the reconstruction of Afghanistan. Now, it is a very big difference, because you must have heard Joe Biden was trying to say that we were not there for nation building. We went there for counterterrorism, and that's where the key to all this mess lies, frankly. India, on the contrary, has tried to help in nation building. So even though today our relationship with the Taliban may not be that of bum chums or the great friends, but the Taliban appreciates what India has done. They understand that it was a benign effort on the part of India to help the Afghans, with whom we have age-old relations, right? Pakistan was only 1947, that was created. Before that, we were all part of the same thing. So what we are seeing now is the Taliban, in the meantime, while the Americans were fighting with them, they were having duplicitous policies, which also helped Taliban grow. On the other hand, the Pakistan remained the conduit for fight against Taliban and Al-Qaeda, as well as a nursery for Taliban. All the leaders were born in Pakistan. They were given Quetta or wherever, and they have been given all the refuge, all the assistance, all the logistical support by the ISI and by the military army, the Pakistan army. So over the time, the Taliban also learned. But what happened is, in the meantime, Taliban has also become very smart, as they say. They have learned how to communicate with the world. And we see that they opened a mission in 2013 in Qatar. And in the beginning, if you remember, the countries that were supporting Taliban were Saudi Arabia, UAE, Pakistan. Today, the key country, which is the interlocutor with them, is Qatar, because that is where Mullah Baradar lived after 2018. That is where all the negotiations have taken place with the Americans and the international community. So Doha Agreement was signed. So since Obama's time, everybody has decided to withdraw from this, because this was an unwinnable war. They have realized trillions of dollars have gone and several thousand people have died. Nothing has really happened, and the war continues. So they decided that this war on terror had served its end when they killed Osama bin Laden, and Americans decided to go back. Now, how to go back without losing your face? They had already done so in Vietnam, and the pictures are being compared today in the social media of Saigon and this. So Trump decided to sign an agreement with Taliban, keeping all the kind of their concerns that they will be allowed safe exit, there will be inclusive government, there'll be this and that and that. But the trust and Taliban are the two things that have not really matched very much, the actions and this. So nobody had seen how Taliban will be. But Taliban got the early on warnings that Americans are desperate to leave the country. So let us just try to occupy it. So in the meantime, what they were doing, the Afghan governments were continuously remaining fractured. There were problems with the other warlords or the groups within them, like Abdullah. Abdullah did not see eye to eye with Ashraf Ghani. Similarly, the previous president was not too good to do this thing. Similarly, warlords were not too happy. The Elders Council was not happy. And there was a lot of corruption going on. Americans, CIA and others decided to look the other way when the corruption was happening. There was demoralized army. There was no political leadership. There was no military leadership in the area. And therefore, we see what happened, that these regions of provinces or provincial capitals in Afghanistan fell without even a fight, like the pack of cards. And we have seen eventually they reached the Kabul, and that there was an utter intelligence failure. What happened? Because Americans were talking 3 months, 6 months, and all kinds of things. So it seemed to me that the Americans were dependent for their intelligence on the Pakistanis. And Pakistanis in this game played both the sides. And they have continued to, and always say that somehow you have to grant it to the Pakistani establishment that they have been able to encash their nuisance value with every major power all along. And they are doing so even now with China. So they, in the meantime, because they knew that the Americans were becoming more friendlier to India, and this was not going, despite the fact that Americans considered them as instrumental in solving the Afghan problem, they tried to bring in Chinese and the Russians into it and help them, and became their interlocutors as well. And also, of course, with Qatar. So today the situation is like this. The Taliban is very much there. It is a reality. Americans have already legitimized it by signing the Doha Agreement without keeping the Afghan government out. Chinese have hosted a very good Taliban delegation led by the Mullah brother, who's likely to be the president, next president. The Russians have been engaging with them in Troika talks and others, hosting Moscow talks and whatnot all the time. So they are the ones. So today on the ground, what happened is Americans, the Western countries, Indians, everybody has exited or are exiting their diplomatic presence from Afghanistan. But we are seeing that Russians and the Chinese are not only staying there, leave alone Pakistanis, but they are also being protected by the Taliban. And Taliban has improved a lot, I would say, in terms of the communications. Even in India, almost every channel I found Suhail Shaheen to be talking there, he became a household name. It was never the case earlier. We always looked at, and he was saying the right things that the international community wanted to listen. And so what we are seeing today is a Taliban which is media savvy and which knows how to rather leverage the concerns of the international community, which is divided, which is not united. And we have seen it, what happened in the UN Security Council discussions. So we'll see that how it plays out eventually, if Taliban is going to do what really says, right? Of course, and everybody, and one should not fool that it will be a Sharia-led government, it will be Islamic Emirate. They are not saying no to that. They are saying they will very much be there. But the women, the children, minorities, everybody will have to follow that diktat. Now, they will not be the only country in the world who will be following Sharia. I mean, most of the Islamic countries do follow Sharia one way or the other. And so this, but the Talibanization, which we call, is the extremes of it. That is aggressive, and that is what caused the fear in the country and distrust of the Taliban. So everybody is saying that it is only temporary, but it's too early, in fact, to judge. They are also, of course, talking to the other parties and trying to come up with an interim transitional government. That composition of that government will decide. As far as India is concerned, I think that we don't have very many cards in our hands. So from only good thing for us is we happen to be the chair of the UN Security Council at this time. Okay. And therefore, we have taken the lead in arranging discussions. We are not accusing the Taliban. Taliban says we have no problem with India directly or the bilaterally. Taliban has also made some good noises about the issues in Jammu and Kashmir, Article 370, etc. They said there's a bilateral problem between India and Pakistan and we have nothing to do with it. And they said that a lot of these are internal issues. So that's a good thing for us from our point of view. Secondly, they also appreciate what India is doing there or has done. So we'll have to start from there. Also, we will have to talk to the Russians and the Iranians, because you have no hope with the Americans or with the Chinese or Pakistanis to help you in any way. So we have to be careful on our borders. We have to be careful domestically that the victory of Taliban is not seen as a victory of radical Islam in India by some of these groups. And so internally, domestically, we'll have to prepare ourselves a lot. On the other hand, with our like-minded partners, of course, everybody looks after their own interests. But then we have to make greater outreach to the countries. We have great relations with West Asian countries, whether it is Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran, or for that matter, Qatar. So all of them are going to have no problem with India engaging in Afghanistan, and Americans, everybody says, but America's chips are a bit down, I would say right now, even though the Taliban wants the American recognition for its own sake.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.